All right, we have.
You gotta turn it off.
Oh, you turn it off? Okay, we have one last framework left, but I can promise you it's going to be a little bit less code than the last two frameworks. So, I would like to first, before I introduce you to Mavo, or Mavo, I don't actually know how it's pronounced yet, because I haven't ever seen any videos or anything talking about it. I'm going to introduce myself. So in case you don't know me, I'm Brooks. I'm the organizer of this meetup, but I'm also a software developer at Apto. I also have a live streaming channel. Instead of YouTube, I live stream on Twitch and then archive those videos to YouTube. I usually stream in the morning before work around 7 a.m. Mountain Time. And I've worked in the IT industry, doing systems administration and programming for over 10 years. 8 of those years was at NASA. So, it's been a very interesting career to get me to this point, but it's so fun learning new things and growing and seeing the industry grow along with it. So, let's talk about what Mavo is. It was created by Leah Veru in 2017. Who has heard of Leah Veru? One person, one CSS geek in the house. No, okay, fine. Leah is the author of, I believe, CSS Tricks or Secrets. It's a really awesome book that shows how you can replace like 50 lines of CSS with one, and that it's accepted by every browser and nobody knows about it. But what's interesting is that she wanted to create a completely different type of framework, one that's not component-based, but one that has as little JavaScript in it, at least from the the coder's end, as possible. So the focus is on HTML and CSS. In fact, today we're going to write 0 JavaScript. I know, we're going to keep it on the back end. Okay, so let's build this out. So I have here a basic indexed HTML page. So what I want to do, I brought in the CSS that we created for the shared app. We're going to have a little bit of custom CSS to add on to that because this framework is all about that. So I should also bring my checklist out that I wrote for myself. Let's create our boilerplate HTML. And we'll call this Barkwire Mavo. And we're going to want to bring in a few different one JavaScript file, but it's not going to be our own. Instead of main.js, let's bring in Mavo.js. I already brought this down. It's around 8,000 lines long, which brings about 40K when you minify it and send it up to the client. So Mavo.js. We're also going to want to bring in Mavo.css because being a framework, it has a little bit of front-end CSS for us too. So let's bring that up before this. Link, href, Mavo.css. And before I forget, I'm going to bring in our custom CSS that's a completely empty file right now. So, and I want to override all of this. Link, what did I call it? Custom.css. And that's kind of going to be it. So let's make sure that things are running. We're going to do an h1 hello world. We'll save this. Come on over to, where is it? Here it is, our app. Hit refresh, and there's our hello world. Now, the reason why our h1 turned into nothing is because Kyle, when he wrote the CSS, reset everything. So,
You're goddamn right I did.
luckily, I'm not going to have to write very much CSS for this, so let's just go ahead and sort of like create a static dog in here, and then we'll use Mavo to sort of add things in. So, let's bring in, I actually have some copy and paste stuff here. I want to bring in the header and footer. This is the boring stuff, so nobody cares that we're copying and pasting this header and footer. So save it, here's a header and footer. It's exactly the same as everybody else, except I didn't have to go through several minutes of configuration to get it on the page. Now, the stuff in between, this is where it gets a little bit interesting. So we're going to start with a UL tag, and we're going to give it a class of dogs. And inside of here, we're going to have an LI tag. We'll just do a single one right now, and we'll use Mavo to fill in the rest of them from the server. We're going to have our href tag, but I'm just going to send it to hash for right now, because we'll deal with that later. And then we'll have a section, and I forgot that this has a class of dog listing, and inside of the section is going to be a h3 name, and so let's just call this dog name. And then down below that we have a new section. And inside of the section, we have figure. By the way, if anybody wants to know who created this initial setup, I believe it was Kyle who set up the HTML2. Inside a figure, we're going to have our image. Now, we have this image source. I don't really have a good source to test this out, so I'm going to bring in a place kitten. Because why not use a place kitten for a eventual dog dating app, right? And for all, we'll just say this is a dog name, because that totally makes sense in this context right now. Below our image, we're going to have a fig caption. Now, unfortunately, this doesn't have autocomplete from Emmet, so I have to do fig caption here. And then just put in, dog description. And then below the figure, we're going to have a p tag, which is going to be the full, actually, this is not the dog description, this is the dog caption. And this is the dog description. And was there anything else? No. Okay. So let's save, and let's see what we got. Well, we've got this. Now, of course, nothing's happening. It's not loading in the real data, and we have a kitty cat instead of a dog, but we sort of got our initial layout. So now that we have that, let's start seeing about bringing in Mavo and actually letting it work its magic. So Mavo feels to me like it was a little bit, some of the ideas of Mavo was brought by the initial Angular one. We can see that with like Mavo app to initialize the app, and then we give it a name. So we're going to call this Barkwire. And that initializes it. At this point in time, I could now put in, let's say I just do 1 + 2. It's going to be the exact same thing as with Angular, except instead of the double curly braces, it's single square brackets. And we have 3 right there. So we know that it's included and it's working properly. So let's actually see what we can do to bring in some data. Now Mavo, because we're not going to use any JavaScript in here, it has some interesting properties that we can use. So we're going to do mv source equals, and we're going to grab the API. Now this is the full API all the way to including dogs. I'm just going to put this in here. Now, it's not really going to show anything for us yet. So let's go ahead and tell this li here, we want this to repeat. So mv multiple, and we need to tell it what property on the object to listen to that the array is on. So it's property equals dogs. We'll hit save. And now we have a bunch of dogs on the screen. Well, not really, we have a bunch of cats. But it's sort of repeating over there. So how do we actually now extract the data and put it into the DOM? Well, we're going to use a combination of property and those single brackets. So, okay, we this barkware is fine. UL class dogs, that's fine. We'll come into here. This is the first one. H3 class dog name. We're going to do property equals name. I'm going to hit save. And the name just shows up. Notice also that it showed the dog name first for just a half second while it made the GET request to go get the data. So that's how we can have sort of predefined data set up there so you can see something while it's loading the data. All right, well, let's do the rest here. So we have our section, figure, image source. Well, this needs to change. This is going to become image, what is it? Image source? No. Image URL. And alt is just going to become name. So we have the choice. We can use property when we want it to get injected into the tag. But if we just need to use it directly, we use the single square brackets. We could use these single square brackets right here. So we can use image caption right here. Also, this would be helpful if I spelled this correctly. Okay, figure, dog description. Let's do property equals description. Let's save. Let's see what we got. Now, we got image caption here. That's because that's not actually the real one that it's supposed to be. So what did I do wrong? How's it supposed to be spelled?
Bracket.
Oh yeah, I did put brackets around it. Well, that's silly. And now we got those. So everything is in here the way we want it to be. So now the next thing that we're missing is the single page app part of it. We want to be able to click on one of them without refreshing the screen, only show the one we want to see. So we're gonna do a little bit of magic here. This ahref, we're gonna change this and say, okay, we want to go to pound dogs square bracket ID. So we have an ID property off of the data that's coming in, and so this is gonna make it. So when I click on these, up in the URL, which I can't really zoom in there because the URL doesn't zoom in, but now it says dogs 1, dogs 2, dogs 3. Mavo has a really interesting idea where if I use the classic anchor tag system, how many of you remember the anchor tag system from way back in the day? Mavo uses that. So I'm going to say ID equals pound dogs ID. Now, magically, this is not going to do anything for me. Like, it's not going to just suddenly show only one thing. But if I open up the DevTools and I click on one of these, let's click on the second one. We're going to see, I don't think it, did I not, I saved. Hit refresh. Where's the class? Class is not in there. Did I not use, oh yeah, I need double quotes. All right. Oh, it's not, do I need it? This is the part that I always get, it always sort of gets a little bit in here. Let's try one more thing to get it to go in. So we have ID, dogs ID. We have the ahref, dogs of ID coming in here. We know that it's hitting this dogs ID. Let's make sure that if I scroll way in here and I click on the second one, oh no, so notice that it's not jumping down so that that anchor system isn't working properly. So in my li, I have this ID dogs of ID. And this is a href dogs of ID. In here, let's investigate. In the ul li, we have ID dogs1, dogs2, dogs3. That seems to be working fine. Let me make sure. It was working for me. Okay, so I'm gonna have to switch over to my emergency solution one. So localhost 3000/solution.html. So now this is suddenly working, but let me show you what's going on here. When I clicked on it, it changed. Oh, did I do a /href ID? No, it should be fine there. But when I clicked on it, it added a class into HTML class here. I want to zoom in on here. MV target within. So it finds whichever one I clicked on, and it reads the DOM tree from the top, HTML, and injects MV target within all the way down until the A tag that was in it. That allows us to come in to the CSS, and we can now write our custom CSS to only show the things that we want to see. So we want to select the body. When it has the MV target within class, and then anything inside of there that is an LI tag. Now we want to make sure that we get everything that does not have the class MV target within. Now this was a fun endeavor when I was going through this. There is a not function for CSS, which allows me to select everything that does not have .mv target within. We save this, and then this just works, and we get how do I get? Okay, there we go. We get the interaction that we want. We click on one, and it shows the one we want. Then we can come back, and it shows them all, because we clicked out of it, and MV target within got removed from everything. And that is Mavo. It basically allows us to really quickly write what we want out, only using HTML and CSS. Now, if there's anything in there that just doesn't get handled properly, then that's where Mavo allows us to write custom JavaScript plugins. But that's outside of the scope of this, this presentation. So that's what I've got. That is Mavo.